Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. Before we get started, I just want to apologize right now because my voice is a little off. It has been off for the last 2 weeks. I did have a throat infection, and I think right now I'm just dealing with allergy season. And so my voice is just cutting in and out and doing a little bit of coughing here and there. So I hope it doesn't affect this episode. Today we will share 2 encounters from Joe. We have previously shared 2 already in episode 154, titled, I Saw Something That's Not Supposed to Exist. If you haven't seen that one, go check that episode out. Joe promised he had more to share, and today I finally get to share them along with some of Joe's pictures he asked me to share with you all. So, the last story, you will see some amazing photography taken by Joe. Okay, if you have an encounter story that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with like-minded people. Now sit back and relax as we begin with today's encounters. This first one takes place on January the 17th, and the year is unknown, but we're going to be heading to Bougier Parish, Louisiana, and we're going to Barksdale Air Force Base. As an Air Force Security Police Law Enforcement Specialist, I have been in the USAF for several years. During those years, I have earned leadership's respect by doing what I'm told to do, no matter how difficult the task. On the morning of January 17th, around 2 a.m. in Louisiana, I entered a conventional weapons storage area in Barksdale. The CAS, Close Air Support Area, was located away from the main area of the base, carved out of a heavy forested area. This inspection was performed instead of having a security police station in the area. There had been stationary security in the CAS area, but after 4 of the security people killed themselves, it was now an inspection. Inside the CAS area are bunkers. The bunkers have large locks on the doors that are easy to see using a spotlight from a vehicle. I enjoyed doing the CAS area checks because it was often peaceful, and I was able to enjoy checking on the area and exploring it alone. While doing this routine check, I had a gut feeling something was wrong and I should leave. Because of this feeling, I called dispatch and informed them I was doing a CAS area check. Dispatch understood I would be in the area for approximately 20 minutes. The check ended up taking much longer. While doing the check, the weather went from misting and heavy fog and misting heavier and heavier, limiting my visibility to about 50 yards with a spotlight. As I crept through the CAS area checking bunkers, I became more and more scared. A fear that was new to me and I had never experienced before. This fear was strange and seemed to hang in the air, swept over me, and I felt almost a desperate need to leave the area. I wasn't finished with my area inspection, so I stopped my vehicle, got out, and chambered around in my M4 rifle, and I ensured I had my Beretta M9 sidearm ready. Re-entering the vehicle, I continued my inspection. As I cleared the older bunkers, I entered a new bunker area. The fear I felt was thick in the air, and I had to fight against a gut feeling that I needed to leave the area quickly. As I approached a new bunker, I slowed down, and I had to pull up very close to them because of the heavy fog and mist. I turned on my spotlight, and I was shocked to see a row of bunker doors open haphazardly and the padlocks cut off and laying on the ground. I immediately called dispatch and informed them I needed backup and I had found an unsecure area. Dispatch acknowledged, informing me they did not have a unit to back me up and I should clear the area alone. I pretty much guessed that everyone was busy with the secret squirrel program, which is kind of fun to Google. Everything I was informed to do was so far out of my normal procedure that I knew dispatch was dealing with a much bigger issue. I put the vehicle in park, I grabbed my M4 rifle, and I slipped the safety to full auto. I took out a flashlight and I looked into the bunkers that had been cut open, finding them completely empty. Relieved, I knew terrorists or enemy combatants would take what they needed or wanted and would leave a lot behind. Only the U.S. Air Force would empty all the bunkers so quickly. I called dispatch and informed them I was going to return to the main base, and they acknowledged. An incredible terror was being directed at me. It felt as if it was trying to control me, and I felt as if there was someone close by who absolutely hated me, and I was picking up on this hate and projecting fear and loathing and intense evil that I should get away from. I got back into my vehicle now that the inspection was complete, and I drove up to the locked gate that I needed to open to drive the vehicle out. As I exited the vehicle, I had this absolute terror wash over me, to the point that I looked around in the darkness, mist, and heavy fog. I even called out asking if there was somebody nearby. Nothing but complete silence. No aircraft background noise, no radio chatter, no vehicle noises from afar. Very bizarre for a busy Air Force base. To make a long story short, the gate was stuck, so I was unable to open it. The evil feeling became incredibly strong now. I could feel the presence standing behind me, full of hate and evil. Becoming increasingly aware of this invisible entity or creature, I stopped, turned towards the area I could feel this thing was at, and I asked it politely to allow me to leave. I turned back and the gate was free to open. I drove my vehicle through, locked the gate from the inside, and walked about 20 feet to a pedestrian gate and attempted to unlock it to leave the area. I couldn't unlock it. I felt this entity almost pressing against me, emitting almost overwhelming fear. Fighting the fear, I once again turned towards this entity, and I asked if I could please leave. I turned back to the gate, and it easily unlocked. I exited the gate and turned around, locking it shut. I had this distinct feeling this entity was not able to leave the CAS area, and I was safe from it. But it felt as if it was projecting hate and intense fear at me, trying to terrify me, which worked. I cleared the round out of my M4 and put the weapon back into the truck. As I turned back to my normal duties, I realized hours had passed conducting my 20-minute inspection. It was now around 7 a.m. I was about to leave and I turned towards this entity one last time. I said, "Thank you for letting me go." Suddenly the hate and fear stopped, and I felt this invisible entity move away from me, back towards the new bunkered area. I returned to the main base, turning in my weapons, and I went to the flight chief's office to explain why I was late returning, and brief him on finding bunkers open. I knocked on the door. Hearing enter, I pushed the door open to see the day shift flight chief sitting behind the desk. When he recognized me, he stood up and he said in a very aggressive manner, "Did you see it?" Thinking this NCO was talking about the open bunkers, I said, "Yes, sir." He came closer and in an aggressive manner and again asked if I had seen the creature. I was taken back and I said no, but I felt it. He looked me in the eye and told me never go to the CAS area alone, and if I was ordered to, which was common, to discreetly inform dispatch I can't enter the area alone because I was given a lawful order not to. Strangely, I was never assigned the Kaz area again. This last one takes place in the late summer of 2022. We're going to Wrangell St. Elias National Park and Preserve at McCarthy, Alaska. Ontario Cryptids. My name is Joe, and I'm a U.S. Air Force Security Force veteran. I happen to be assigned to a nuclear weapon base, so I received extensive training in ground combat and other skills I would need to complete my missions. While on duty, I was arresting a civilian who came onto base having an arrest warrant. While arresting this civilian, we ended up fighting. I injured my nose and it required surgery to repair. The surgeon made a mistake and I ended up having trigeminal neuralgia, the most painful condition known to humans. I also received a back injury later on while in the U.S. Air Force. I decided that McCarthy, Alaska, which is in Wrangell St. Elias National Park and Preserve, would be a great place to do my rehab. Walking around in one of the most beautiful places in Alaska is very uplifting. Most of my physical rehab is walking. I've basically been in a chair for a year. This is the weakest I have ever been in my life. I often walk the same trail and I walk it as often as possible. I will walk the trail, then take a day off or two to recover and walk again. This walk is to a retreating glacier, the Root Glacier, and it's a beautiful place to walk. Because this glacier is retreating, there are no large trees in the area. It is small trees, scrub, brush, and rocks. I walked this trail and I noticed a large tree stump in the brush about 40 yards away. Thinking it impossible to have a large stump near a retreating glacier is impossible. There is no time for a large tree to grow, and I have never seen this stump before. I thought it curious enough that I stopped and watched it closely. Thinking this is weird, I've been down this trail 100 times and I've never seen this. While standing there looking at this stump, I lit a cigarette and I continued to watch. Suddenly, this stump had eyes, bright golden eyes. I stood there looking at it and finished my smoke, then started towards it. My feet caught a brush. I looked down at my feet and then back at the stump and it was gone. No sound of walking or running into dry leaves. I walked around the area the stump had been for 15 to 20 minutes and found nothing. The next week, I walked the same trail to the Root Glacier around twilight. It was the time of the year that it doesn't get dark in Alaska. During this walk, I kept my eye out for the stump as I walked near the area. Looking to my right during a twilight evening, I noticed a dark shadow behind a spruce tree. As I stared at this blackness of black shadow, trying to figure out what it was, suddenly my brain realized it was a light-absorbing figure, huge, 12 feet tall and 5.5 feet wide at the shoulders, and it had a conical head. When I realized what I was looking at, I waved and said, "Hello, big brother," turned and I continued my walk to the glacier as normal. I do carry a pistol for bear defense, and I have used it once on a grumpy bear that charged me. One of the first rules of combat is, if you don't have the overwhelming firepower and advantage to win a fight, avoid the fight. I have no desire to shoot or hurt these people. Yes, I believe they are people. The remoteness and solitude have helped me more than people can understand. I was made to go into the remote Alaska bush. If I don't go, I feel the need or craving for fresh air and beautiful solitude. I believe I have had other encounters with Sasquatch. However, I didn't make a connection at the time. As a child, I was paralleled while hunting in the forests. I've also had a cabin slapped while alone and sleeping in Katella, Alaska. a fly-in only location. The encounter that changed me forever was in the U.S. Air Force, when an evil entity trapped me in a fenced area and I lost time. Whatever this thing was seemed to have burned out part of my fear response. Like all, I get scared, but the real fear that immobilizes one and makes one unable to think is gone. In addition, I simply can't get terrorized. Thank you, Ontario Cryptids, for allowing me to tell my encounters. I hope they will help someone who happened to bump into a Sasquatch person. Sincerely, Joe. Joe, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to share your story and also for allowing us to see your beautiful pictures that you have taken. You're actually a really great photographer. It's interesting that your NCO asked you if you saw it. So obviously they have had issues with this creature or entity, or whether the creature is an entity, no idea. But awesome story. And I guess the question I have for you is, do you think that's what took so many lives previously? You mentioned that 4 security folks had killed themselves previously and that this was an investigation. So I guess the question is, do you think it was caused by this creature or this entity? Joe, your second encounter in 2022 was amazing. The fact that, you called him Big Brother and you're able to just, I guess, treat them like you see them all the time. I think that was pretty amazing. And one thing I would like to add, it seems that some folks who have had not just Sasquatch sightings, but we'll use that as an example, the Sasquatch people, they seem to have other encounters as well, whether it's with UFOs, or in this case, Joe has had an encounter with something that we're not sure whether it was a Sasquatch or whether it was an entity, an evil entity. I guess, Joe, you're more prone to encounter some strange situations that most people would never find themselves in. Whether you are more open as a person than others, I think that may have something to do with it. Anyways, thank you so much, Joe, for allowing me to share your encounters. If these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story on this channel. Thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit the like button on your way out and smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Okay, everyone, have yourselves a great weekend, and I hope to see you all next week right here on Ontario Cryptids.